Hello. So good evening, and let's wait for a few more minutes so that the others will join. So we have been dealing with class 12 CBSE Computer Science, and so we have covered a few portions so far. In the last couple of classes, we have dealt with the beginning of the Python language. So after that, we learned data structures. Okay, so as per the syllabus, you had to learn both stack as well as queue. And today, as the title suggests, we will be learning about files and file handling in the language Python. So today we'll be having the part one, or because it cannot be completed in just a day. So we'll have it divided into different sessions. And today we'll be looking into the introductory topics. Okay, usually the theory portion with related to the topic of files in Python. So along with that, we'll be looking into the syntax of just a second. So I hope I'm audible. Yes, hello. Good evening, Bhavna, and welcome to my class. Yes, so it's time and we can start. So, yes, very good evening, Bhavna. Hope you are safe, sound, and healthy. So, welcome to Let's Crack CBSE Science and welcome to my class. So, yes, Vishwa, namaste, good evening. Yes, Devika, very good evening. So, let me give you a brief introduction about myself prior to the class. Hello, all, I'm Shalini. I am a BTech and MTech holder in computer science and engineering. I'm a teacher by profession with over 14 years of teaching experience and still continuing teaching various engineering undergraduate students. With Unacademy, I'm excited to provide an inspiring learning experience to all the students via this online platform. So, as you all know, Unacademy is India's largest e-learning platform. Okay, so it has grown out to be the India's largest e-learning platform, not just for the reason because of the pandemic situation, but also for the reason that it provides courses from for a school-going CBSE student to an aspirant who is preparing for a competitive examination. So this is like a one-stop destination for all the age group. Okay. So what you get in Unacademy, you get daily live classes. Now all the courses here are well structured and in line with the current examination syllabus. So this would help you to prepare for the examination better. Now in the live sessions, you get opportunity to chat with the educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts and answer via polls. Now all the facilities while the live class is going on. Now, apart from that, you have live tests and quizzes. Now, this would help to evaluate your performance and also gives you an analysis of how well you are getting prepared or where you are getting performing yourself for the forthcoming examination. And once you get a subscription, you get unlimited access to the resources of Unacademy. Resources in the sense you get access to the live as well as recorded courses. Now this can be viewed at the comfort of your time as well as at the comfort of your device. Okay. So you needn't worry if you miss out a live session because you can see the same in the recorded format. Okay, all you need to do is get a subscription of Unacademy. So this is how the comprehensive syllabus would look like. You would have the different subjects, and underneath each subject you will have the different courses. Now this is the Unacademy learning app that you need to download and install in your smartphones. Now apart from that, there is a Telegram channel too. So you see the link here. So all you need to do is type the link in the URL and then join the channel. Yes, Bhavana will be starting just in 1 or 2 minutes after the subscription details. Okay, please stay tuned. So this is a detailed description about the class 12 subscription fee. Now you have the different plans listed here ranging from 1 month subscription to a year subscription. Okay. So a month subscription costing you around 2,500 to a year subscription costing around 12,500. But if you use my promo code SLYT, I repeat, if you use my promo code SLYT, you get a discount of 10%. That is a month subscription which costed around 2,500 would cost you around 2,250. Now similarly, the same discount is available in all the plans listed below in the table. Now, applying my code doesn't mean that you get access only to my class, but also to all the classes that are getting posted by the best educators all over India. Okay. So let's get started. Yes, Bhavna, we're going to start now. So as I told you, I have been dealing with CBSE Class 12 Computer Science, and today we'll be learning how to work with files in Python. Now the entire session is divided into different parts, and today we'll be starting off. So this is the pitching in class. Okay. So these are the contents that we'll be covering in today's session. We'll look into the term what is persistence. Then we'll have a small intro to the concept of files, the classifications or the various categories of files or the ways in which data files are stored in the storage devices, and how to work with text files in the language Python. So that we'll be looking into only as per how much the time permits, maybe just the opening and closing functions, okay, with their syntax. Okay, so these are the things that we'll be covering. So let's get started. Now let's first introduce and get accustomed with the term persistence. Okay, what is the term persistence? Now most of the programs are transient. Now what does transient mean? It means that whenever you write a program and then when you compile it to see the output, now this is a lifetime of a program. Okay, so you run the program, you get the output, and after that, so whenever you're trying to execute, you're running a program means you're executing a program. So whenever this task is going to be done, The program will be stored into your primary memory. Now this is run for a very short time, okay, and it produces the desired output as how the program demands, okay. Now after the program ends, what happens? This program or all the necessary details with respect to your program is removed from the memory. Why? Because the program execution has terminated. So, but when the program ends, what happens? The data with respect to the program also disappears. So, if you want to run the program again, now the same process starts. Okay, so it starts with the clean state. Okay, so we say that a program in execution is usually called as a process. Okay, and this process has different states. So we say that the start state or the initial state of a process. So whenever a program is put into execution, now the entire process starts again. That means allocating the memory, then allocating, taking some values that are elsewhere. Okay, and this is how the execution happens. It's not that difficult, Bhavana. Yes, Vishwa, if I enter a text in text files, how is it stored in file or memory? That is text as it is, or 0 or 1. See, it depends on the extension. See, if you're giving .txt, it is a text file, right? So actually the file is going to appear. I mean, we can write it in the text as how it is coming in the keyboard, as how we are typing. You can see it also like that. But in memory, usually it is stored in the binary format. So we'll come to that when we are looking into the different formats. Okay. Bhavna, the chapter is not that difficult if you try to understand and learn things. Okay, so it takes a little while because as a fresher or a debut learner to a programming language, every concept will be difficult to you in the first place. Even me as a student found it difficult when we were learning fresh concepts for the first time. But as you try working out problems, as you learn, relearn, and unlearn things, things get much easier to you. And once you have learned a programming language, I would say it's from my personal experience, it would be very easy for you to learn any other programming language because the concept in almost all languages are the same, but the way of representing each of the concept would be different. Okay, see, in English you have different alphabets, say A, B, C, etc., for the representation. But when you talk about Hindi, the letters or the aksharmala differs, right? So similarly, you have you call it by the name alphabets in the English language, and then when you talk about the characters in Hindi, you call them as Aksharmala, right? But you have the same concept. I mean, the characters are there both in both the languages, but only the representation differs. Fine. So let's get back to learning. So I hope I can make it a little more easy. Yes, program लिखने में दिक्कत हो रहा है. Yes, maybe. Because I told you in the first case, as a debut attempt, it would definitely be difficult. Nothing would be easy. But only with time and with practice can things be made easier. So do not get tensed over that. I hope I can make you understand. Okay. Okay, yes, getting back to the topic, transient and persistence. Fine. I told you that transient meaning which is existing only for a certain period of time. And after that period of time, it will not be there. Okay, fine. So when you're talking about small programs that you're writing and executing, say for addition of two numbers, you're trying to execute the program, you read the input values from the user, find the sum and then display it on the screen. So what happens? At that stage, your program would be in the memory. After that, what happens? all the data with respect to this particular program gets disappears, right? When you try to run the program again a new set of memory will be allocated, and in this case whatever value that you are entering will again be stored in the memory. Fine. So this is how it starts afresh. Okay. But see, there are some other programs which are persistent. Now, what is the meaning of persistent? Persistent meaning it can exist for a longer duration of time. Okay. So they keep at least some of their data in a permanent storage. Now, whenever we are talking about yes, my time in YouTube is usually 8:30 p.m. Bhavna. Though I don't take on every day, but I at least take on alternate days, and it's 8:30 p.m. And I do conduct the same classes in app too, in the Unacademy app too. Okay. So when you're talking about persistence, now what happens is you can keep the data for a longer period of time. Now, if things have to be kept in a longer period of time, that means you cannot store it in the permanent memory, because the size of the permanent memory is very small. So whenever you want something called as permanent storage, you definitely has to take the help of secondary memory devices. Now, which is a secondary memory device that would be residing in your system? It will be like a hard drive. Okay. Now, take an example. Now, take the example of a system software. At what time in app? Usually, I post it based on my time. Just 12 or 9 hours prior to hosting it, I'll be publishing it. So if you follow me in app, you get a notification of my classes in app by my name. You can search for Shalini L in Unacademy app and then follow me so that you get a notification whenever I post it. Okay. Fine, I think I have answered you. So now let us take as an example of a system software. Now, what is a system software that I'm writing here? Operating system, right? Now, operating system itself is a software. Now, this is a software that would help you to the user to interact with the hardware. Okay. Now, it is such a lengthy program because whenever the system is on, definitely the operating system is running behind. So in this case, as long as the system is switched on, there is a program or a software which is running behind, which is helping the entire system, which helps the entire system to function without any fail, right? Now, what happens here? I told you this is a program or a software. Now, this has to run for a very longer period of time, and the length is also bulky, right? In this case, I cannot store it in my primary memory. It would be actually stored in a permanent storage like hard drive. Okay. Now, things that have to be persistent, that means which has to be stored for a longer duration of time. Do you think that you switch on your system today, the operating system runs? Yes, fine. You switch off the system and then you erase your operating system off from the computer? No, right? As long as you are using the system, definitely such system softwares have to prevail in your system, right? So hence the term persistence. Persistence meaning it is going to stay for a longer period of time. So for such things, no beta, like RAM meaning RAM is a volatile memory. In this case, whenever the power gets switched off, everything inside the RAM gets erased off. And if you're talking about the size or the capacity of RAM memory, what happens is it is of a very small storage size. Fine. So such bulk data or anything cannot be stored permanently there. Whatever you have to execute currently, it is brought to your primary memory, then executed and then taken back or erased back. Okay. Hard disk is the secondary secondary memory. Okay. Primary memory is RAM and ROM. Yes, Bhavana, it gets erased off. Yes, so it's wrong. Yes. Okay, so at this point, we understand that there are certain things which has to be stored or which has to be persistent. Fine. So one of the simplest ways for programs to maintain their data or to keep their data is reading and writing text files. So this is actually the need for learning text files. Is the idea clear? There is a question of maintaining your data for a longer period of time, and for this reason we learn something called as text files, because in the text files the data can be, certain operations could be performed in the I mean certain operations could be performed on the file, say like reading and writing of the text files. So hence we are going to learn something called files. So let's start with the introduction. Yes, good evening. Yes, Bhavna, every day I told you in my YouTube sessions are usually fixed at 8:30 p.m. So I'll be running live from 8:30 p.m. till I come to an end of the whatever topics I have prepared for a day. Okay. So if you could attend it, or you can attend it by following me at as a recorded session also. Okay. So let's get to learning the introduction of files. See here, what is a word processor? No, I hope everybody know what a text document is or what a Microsoft Word does. Now, what does it help you to? It helps you to create documents, right? Wherein you can type and create something. So whatever you create like that is called as a document file. If you're talking about something called as database programs, okay, so all these database programs, again they create files. Now what does this file contain? This file contains information, usually in the forms of tables, okay, and rows and columns, and in the form of tables. Now if you ask me what a compiler does, now what is a compiler? It is a system software or a translator which will help you to actually read the source program and convert it to a form which is understandable by your computer or your system. Fine. So compiler is a translator. Now what compiler does is your program, right? The program written in your high level language, again it is a source file, and this source file once compiled generates something called as executable file. I mean it is a form in which can be directly run by the system. So this is a form in which it is understandable by the system. Is the idea clear? So whenever you're talking about big things, you talk about files. Okay. If you're asking me how I'm reaching you, I mean this entire video, again this is a file. The contents are again a file. The PPT that I have prepared for presenting to you kids, again that is another file. Okay. So in short, we see everywhere whenever voluminous data is involved, we associate the term files. So this is a reason why we are learning files, and we need to know how files would be. Okay. So our file is permanently stored actually in the hard disk drive or thumb drive or something like that. So whenever you want to execute, see whatever you need to execute currently at the point, it will be brought to your RAM, and then after the execution it will be taken back because the size of the RAM is too small. So if you want to store the entire file, I mean the voluminous data, it would be stored in the secondary storage. Yes, Rohan. Yes, Ansu. Good evening. Welcome to my class. So, in short, most of the computer programs that we see, that we work with, all these work with something called as files. Okay. So, why? Because these are this is the means by which you can store the data or information permanently. So this is a necessity, and this is why you are learning the concept called as file. Okay. So let's get to the definition. A file is itself a bunch of bytes. Okay. Now what is byte? Byte is a unit of storage, right? It is a unit of the memory. Okay. Now, byte meaning it is a unit of the memory, like how we say meter, which is a unit for measuring length. So likewise for measuring the memory, we say bytes, and we have higher and lower versions also. So this is a standard form in which the unit is said. So the file itself is a bunch of bytes, and as we already saw, it has to be stored in some storage device like hard disk, wherein it can be permanently stored. Yes, very good, Bhavana. The lower unit when you consider of bytes is bits. Okay. Now what is the expanded form of bit? Can anyone tell me? What is the expanded form of bit? Anyone? Bit is the shorthand form of binary digit. Okay. So how many bits do make a byte? 8 bits would make 1 byte. Okay. So we are not just talking about 1 or 2 bytes. We'll be talking about either the size in kilobytes or megabytes. Fine. Okay, it's such voluminous data. So let's leave all those parts. Fine. Yes, binary digit. Very good. Very good. Now, files are used to save information. Now, I told you that it is talking about permanent storage. Now, why we are talking about permanent storage? Because it can be retrieved later. So, as and when you need the use of it, it can be retrieved later on. So, this is why we use the concept of files. Okay. So we're getting to learning. We are looking into just the introductory topics with respect to files. So today we'll be learning about data files. So most of you have been asking me what are files, what are the categories, right? So data files are the files that store data pertaining to a specific application for later use. Yes, we'll be looking into CSV and all those things later on, but not now. Okay. So data files are the files that store data pertaining to a specific application for later use. Based on the way data is stored, the file, based on the way the data is stored, the files are also stored in two ways. The names associated with them are text files and binary files. The text files, whatever we type from the keyboard, yes, it is also coming in data file itself, but I am planning to take it as a separate category. Okay. So the text file, whatever we type from the keyboard, all the characters as and how it appears in the plain text format, this is the same way in which the data appears in the text files also. Okay. But when you're talking about binary, what does the term binary indicate? Bi meaning two, right? So what are the two different symbols in the format of binary? You would just have 0 and 1. So whenever you are having data which is stored as a sequence of zeros and ones, it is called as a binary file. So that goes with text files and what are called as binary. Binary meaning it is two symbols. The symbols are zeros and ones. Okay. So this is how it would be existing. So when you're creating a document file, when you're creating a database files, now all these files are actually your text files. Okay. But once you execute it, or when the result of a compilation operation or something, an executable file, anything of the extension .exe, all those things are the category of binary files. Okay. It would have zeros and ones. Okay. So a text file. Now, how does a text appear in your book? You know that you have lines running here. Here itself you can see the standard convention is you start writing from left to right. So you write from the leftmost point after your margin, go on proceeding with the line till you reach the rightmost corner, and then what happens, you move to the next line, and again you would be continuing in the Yes, we can open in the binary mode too when we are specifying the mode of opening. Okay. But right now we'll be concentrating and learning more on text files. Okay. So a text file stores the information in ASCII or Unicode characters. Now, what is ASCII or Unicode? Meaning, these are standard forms of representation of characters. Okay, any character, meaning it can be a symbol, it can be a letter, it can be a number, etc. So, character can be anything, and the ASCII or Unicode are standard conventions. Now, why do you think uniform is being imposed in schools or in colleges? Why? Because when everybody is in uniform, the students are treated equally and they are not going to be categorized in any other way, right? So, similarly, for a character to be treated uniformly across the world, there are standard conventions, and such conventions are ASCII or Unicode. Okay. So a text file would store information in ASCII or Unicode characters, or in short, it is nothing but a string of characters. Okay. Yes, Bhavna, that is the expansion of ASCII, American Standard Code for, it is not international information, it is information interchange. Okay. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Fine. So in text files, as I told you, you will be having lines of text, right? So each line of text is terminated. Now, how do you end a line? Now, when you're writing, as humans, we know that, yes, we started from the left corner, we entered till the end of the rightmost corner of your page and then proceeded to the next line. But when it comes to a system, you need to teach the system, yes, this is where the line has started, this is where the line has ended, and you have multiple lines in your file, and this is where you can mark the end of file. Is the idea clear? So you need, the system is a passive device, and so you need to tell them, explicitly has to be mentioned. So in that case, in the text file, each line of text is terminated with a special character, and the special character is called as end of line. That is how to mark the end of line. See, all the escape sequences or the combination of escape sequences that are being shown here can be used in Python as an end of line character. Okay. Uh, I didn't get you, Vishwa. Can you please repeat your question? Yes, Bhavana, in the app, if you follow me, for the same lectures, you get PDF of the same. So the entire slides, PPT presentation can be got in the PDF format. Other than that, if you need notes, I'll be posting it in the app, okay? Or I'll be posting it, I can post it later on at the end of my, the entire class is over, I'll be posting it and I can post the link where I have uploaded the notes. Okay. Vishwa, can you please repeat the question? I didn't get you. Did you mean to ask me what exactly a bunch of bytes mean? Okay, file definition. Now, why it is mentioned as a bunch of bytes? Because it is actually a big volume of data, right? So data, the unit which is going to be stored in the memory is bytes. So hence it is called as bunch of bytes. Okay. So as I told you, a text file it is just a plain text as how it appears to the user, and this is how it would be terminated. You would have special characters or escape sequences or a combination of escape sequences to mark the end of the line. Now, what is an escape sequence? It is a combination of backslash followed by a character. Now, this would be treated as a single character, though it is comprising of two symbols. Okay. Now, each symbol, each escape sequence will be having some or the other purpose to be done. If I'm saying backslash n, it shows new line, backslash r is carriage return, and similarly there are so many things. Backslash t is there for tab. Fine. Now next, getting to the binary file. Now this is a file, as I told you, wherein the informations are stored as a series of ones and zeros here. Okay. Now since it is stored in the series of ones and zeros, now this is how actually it is stored in memory also, like Vishwa asked before, right? As how it is being stored in the memory also. Now in this case, there is no delimiter for the binary files because the system doesn't need so. Okay. So next we're going to learn how to work with the text files. Okay. So first we need to understand the purpose of using files that we have been looking into right now. Just a second. Okay. So, see here. Now, first, whenever we are learning a programming language, the first thing that we learn for storing data is a variable, right? First thing that we learned for storing a particular value was a variable, right? Bhavna, carriage return, it is nothing but the other name for enter or a new line. Okay. So, see here, the first thing that we learned was variable, right? Now, this variable was capable of holding a single value, right? Now, after that, we learned about concepts like sequence of values, data types, and in that we learned sequence of values that could be stored. Later on, we learned something called as data structures, fine, wherein the amount of data stored as we progress our learning increased, right? Now after that we learn something called as functions, and then function also a set of action to be taken, but it cannot exist as standalone. It has to exist the within the, I mean, a main program, or main program has to invoke it. So it is a program was supposed to be a collection of functions. Yes, it's other name for enter key. Yes. Okay. Now all these things, right? Now we're going to increase the amount of data that could be stored, and hence we're going to learn file. Okay. So we started our journey whenever you're learning any language or any programming language. Okay. We started with characters. Later on, we started forming words. Then we started forming sentences. Now we're talking about, not only passages but entire text of data, right? So in this case, what we learn is something here is called as files. Now, these files can be treated for saving voluminous or bulk data here. So, yes, Lavish. Yes, we'll be discussing the syllabus of CBSE Class 12 Computer Science. Okay, and right now we are learning the files. We have just started, we have the introduction to files running today. So whenever we are talking about the basic file manipulation task, okay, so you should have the facility for adding your data. Now take your fresh notebook to be a file, okay. So whatever you're learning, you take down notes, right, in your notebook. Now, whenever you are opening a file, I mean opening a page, a fresh page, there will be nothing written on the page. And on the first lecture that you will be listening, you'll be taking down lecture notes, right? So that means you are writing data to it. Okay. Now, once you're learning, you're learning my class on files. Later on, you would feel like you need to need to research more on the topic. You may go find lectures of other educators or maybe from other books. So every time you start learning something from another person, you start getting at least something new, right? So in that case, what do? You can add extra details to the file, and at some point of time when you're trying to learn and you take down some point, imagine that that point was wrong. So in that case, there should be some option wherein whenever you learn the corrected things, you will have to modify or delete that particular line and modify it with a new value. Fine. Now imagine that your class 11 notes, class 11 is over, so you just but there are some leftover pages in your notebook. What do? You tear up all the other notes, and then you can use the leftover pages. So in that case, you are deleting some data. Fine. So whenever you're talking about files in the programming language also, there should be some manipulation task involved with it. Say adding data to a file, modifying. So that means already a data is existing and you're trying to change the value of a data, or you're trying to erase or chop off some data which is irrelevant to you completely out of your file. Okay. So all the bulleted operations, थोड़ा हिंदी में समझाओ. I'm so sorry, Lovish. I'm from the south. I can hardly understand Hindi, but my Hindi is too bad. I may not be able to speak in Hindi. So kindly forgive me in that case. Maybe at some time I can use hardly one or two words in Hindi. That's it. Okay. So these are the different tasks that could be performed on the files, right? What are they? Adding data to a file, modifying data to a file, and deleting data to a file. Are you finding it very difficult? The language. I'm talking in the most simplest of English I could know. Okay. I'm from the south. I'm from Kerala. Okay. So these are accomplished. Now all the different operations that I have written above, right? Like adding data to a file, modifying data to a file, or deleting data to a file. Now all these things that I have been listing here can be done with a combination of a set of operations that are defined below. Okay. So please look here. What are the operations that I have written here? Reading data from the files. So already you are having some notes in your notebook. Now what do you do before the examination? You open up your notebook and start reading the lecture notes that you have taken down. Okay. So that is an option of reading data from the file. If you're treating your notebook to be a file. Fine. Writing data to a file. So whenever you find a new data, what do? You can scribble it. Okay. You can scribble it in your note. Yes, thanks, Bhavana. Lavish, my timetable in YouTube sessions it is actually 8:30 p.m. Usually, but not every day. At least alternate days I'll be taking. Yes, Sumita Arora is one of the best books for you people to learn, I would suggest. So I do look into some other books also. I have Python books with respect to engineering subjects also. So I do refer that also. But I would say as a beginner, please go for Sumita Arora. It's a wonderful textbook. Okay. And I think the syllabus and the questions are also being picked out from that. Fine. So you can read data from the files. You can write data to the files. And suppose you have one chapter of the lesson completed. What do you tear this off and take another notebook for chapter 2? No, right? You would start writing from the same notebook. Now such an option is called as appending. So that means you're adding things to the tail end of whatever is already existing. Is the idea clear? You can ask doubts via the chat, beta, in the live session. Okay, I'll upload it later on. Okay. I'll be conducting the same in the app too. In this case, in that case, you can, if you visit the app, you can get the PPT format of the, the PPT in the PDF format from the app also. Yes, special class is also there in the app. Okay. So these are the different operations that could be performed on the files. What are they? Reading data from the files, writing data to the files, and appending it. Okay, so reading and writing is not something new to you. We already know what are the actions with respect to reading and writing. Now, what is appending? No, no, not yet. Plus subscription, not yet. You're asking me, Vishwa? Off to the students. Appending is adding your data to the tail end of the existing file. Okay. So these are the main operations that we will be performing on files. Okay. Now let's get to learning of how to open the files. Okay. So this can be done using the open method. Okay, open function. Sorry, not method, the function. We had already seen the difference between method as well as function, right? Function is something which is standalone, and method is also a function but which can exist inside an object only. Is the idea clear? Only it can exist only inside an as a component of an object. Now, for opening the files, we use the function by the name open. Okay. Now, the syntax, whenever we are learning a concept in the programming language, we need to learn the syntax also. What does the syntax say? The syntax say how to use it in your program. Okay, how to use it in your program. So see how to open a file. You have the file object name is equal to, open is the keyword, and inside the function bracket you would be including the file name. So whenever you are writing syntax, whatever enclosed between angle brackets has to be written by the user or the programmer. Is the idea clear? So whenever you are learning a syntax and whenever you see things written between angle brackets, this is the place where you can, what can you do? You can write to the, this is a place where the user has to write something, and whenever some things are enclosed between square brackets, what does it indicate? Square brackets are optional. Okay, so anything outside the angle brackets and the square brackets have to be mandatorily written. Fine. So see here, within the file object name is written between angle brackets. So the user has to give an identifier name for the file object equal to, finally we have written open of file name, right? So what happens, we open the function and after that the function bracket, and inside that you would be specifying the file name. Okay, so either this way or file object name, you can give the file object name is equal to open, wherein open is having two parameters here. What are the parameters? The parameters are the file name of your file and the mode in which you are opening the file. Now we'll be looking into all these things later on. A is equal to, you mean to say you cannot use a print function inside the open function? Is that what you're trying to ask me? Because it is actually not using the print function, you are trying to write things to a file. Print is a function which is used to print something on your screen, not onto the file. Actually, you are trying to write to a file using a different function or a different method and not using print. Okay. I hope that was clear to you. Parameters and arguments, actually, they are the same, but whenever you're talking about a function, you have the function definition, and then you have something called as the function call. Okay, so function definition meaning you would have the keyword def followed by the name of the function, and then you have the values which are to be passed in the function header. So whatever values that comes in the function header or in the function definition are called as parameters. Okay. Now, whatever values that come in the function call statement. Okay. How do you call a function? You call the function from within the main program or maybe from any other function. Fine. Such a statement, call statement, whenever you're trying to call a function. So imagine that this is your function definition and you are having 2-3 lines here followed by the return statement. Fine. So whatever values that are coming in the function definition or the function definition header are given the terminology parameters. But when you're trying to invoke or when you're trying to call the function, how do you call somebody? You call somebody by the name, right? See, imagine in my class that there we consider them that they are same or not. See, actually it is nothing. Both are indicating to the values that are written inside the function. Whenever you are having the dummy values or the values that you define in the function header, it is called by the name parameters. Whenever you are trying to call the function, you call those values by the term arguments. Okay. So arguments are nothing but the actual values. Now, this is a differentiation only in Python, okay? In C or C++ or any other programming language, you use both the terms. Either you call it by the term parameters or you call it by the term arguments. That is not a mistake, okay? Only in Python, there is a differentiation. We say like this. Now, when you're trying to invoke or call the function, how do you write? Imagine that fn name is your name of the function, and then you would for the variable values, if you are giving 3, this is how you call the function, right? So in this case 3 is called as the argument, or it is the actual value that you're passing to the function. Whenever you're passing the actual value, it is called as the argument. So arguments are nothing but actual values. Both of them start with A. Use that as a hint for remembering. Okay. So parameters are nothing but parameters are actually dummy values or something like that. Okay. So I hope I have made the difference between arguments and parameters clear to you. So let's get back to learning of the open function. See here, open. Now file object name is equal to open of file name. Fine. Now either this syntax can be used, or which is the other syntax? The syntax in which open is having two parameters. What are they? First one is your file name, and the second one is the mode or the method by which you are trying to open the file. Is the idea clear? Actually, the open function has 3 parameters, in which the third parameter is buffering, or wherein you specify the number of bytes also prior hand. This much size is going to be allocated for your function or for your file. Usually we do not write that because it is completely optional. Okay. Now, at your point of view, I mean, for the syllabus, what the syllabus says is you just need to learn these two syntax, wherein you can use the open with just one parameter, wherein you are only giving the file name, or you can have the open function with 2 parameters, wherein you have the file name as well as the mode. But whatever, it is equated and you have a variable on the left hand side, and this variable is the file object name. Okay, variable or the yeah, third is the buffering. That means you give the you give the number of bytes beforehand, which is actually not used here. Okay, so what happens is if you're not giving the third parameter and then you create your file, the system takes the from the start till the end, and these many bytes would be allocated for that file. This is how it works. Okay, fine. You were talking about the third parameter, right? The third parameter is like this. Okay, so shall we move on? So let us see a few examples to understand this better. Okay. So see here, I have an example. The first example wherein I have given a variable my file. Okay, is equal to open of what I have written in double quotes school.txt. Fine. So this school.txt is the name of your file. Fine. Whatever you are writing within double quotes is the name of your file. Okay. Whenever you need to have a predefined, a file of a predefined size or something like that. Okay. Fine. So let's get back to our example. We have my file is equal to open of school.txt. So what happens? You are trying to open a file. Now what is the name of the file? The name of the file is school.txt, and which is the variable that is written on the left hand side. The left hand side is the variable my file. Now what does my file say? It is actually the file object or the file handle. Okay. Now what exactly is file object or file handle? We'll be looking into in a few minutes in the coming slides. Now see here, is the file mode shown here? The mode or the method in which you need to open the file shown here? No, right? If the file mode is not specified, if it is not given explicitly, what do you mean by the term explicitly? If you have not mentioned here, okay, if you have not mentioned here the default value or the value that is understood by the system, if the mode is not specified, which is a value to be taken is actually read mode. Is the idea clear? By default, yes, very good Bhavana. By default, it is the read mode. Okay. Now, what happens when you try to open the file of the name school.txt? Now, imagine that this is your file and you're having some contents in the file, and the name of the file is going to be school.txt, right? My file is a variable which is a handle or the object which points to the starting location of the file. Is the idea clear? So what is my file? My file is a file handle or a file object which would point to the starting location of your file. Okay, so let's see more examples to understand this better. Okay, now see the next example. The next example in which my file is equal to open of. Now I'm giving the name of the file followed by the mode. Okay, so this is the second syntax that we had seen. See here, this is the second syntax wherein you give the Okay, thank you, Bhavana. So, see the second syntax, you would have both the file name as well as, both the file name as well as the mode, right? Now, what is the mode shown here? The mode is small letter r. Now, something you need to take care is whenever you're giving the name of the string or the mode, everything has to be enclosed between quotes since they are strings. Okay, so here we are using double quotes. So it opens a file school.txt in the read mode. Now, when you try to decipher or dissect to understand what is being shown in this line, my file, what is it? It is the file object or the handle, and school.txt is the name of the file, and R, it indicates the mode of opening the file, which is a mode, read mode. So we'll be looking into, you didn't understand the append mode, please wait, Bhavna. We'll be coming to the different modes later on in the coming slides. After 2-3 slides, after all the examples related with open function, we'll be looking into the access modes. Okay, fine. Just wait for a few more minutes. Fine. So this is the second example in which I have mentioned the mode also. Okay. So let's move on to the next example. Okay, what is being shown here? Again, we have the open function. Okay, you have the file object. Fine. The file object would be pointing, default it would be pointing to the beginning of the file. Okay. So my file is equal to open of. See how I've given the name of the file. I have actually given the entire path. Fine. What do you mean by the path? The path meaning where actually the name file school.txt is your file, right? Text file. Actually where your file is being saved or residing in your system. See, it is residing in the D drive. Inside the D drive you have a folder of the name folder 1, and inside that folder 1 you are saving the file school.txt. Is the idea clear? So you are giving the entire path wherein you have the file. And see, this has to be opened in which mode? W. Now what does W indicates? W indicates write mode. Is the idea clear? So what would Python do? Whenever it sees an open function like that, it will start hunting for a file with the name of school.txt in the D drive. Okay, and inside the D drive it will see the folder 1. Inside the folder 1, it will check for the existence of school.txt. Is the idea clear? So there is a provision of giving the entire path in the name, in the place where you can give the file name. The only thing that you need to take care of it, the entire thing has to be written between double quotes. And whenever you're showing the path, definitely double slash lines has to be mentioned. See how I've mentioned here? Okay, so though I write inside the D folder slash folder 1, but when you are specifying inside the open function, it has to be mentioned within double slash. Is the idea clear? So we have school.txt, which is the name of the file, my file, your file object, and W indicates the mode of opening the file, which is the write mode. Okay, so moving on. So as we, I'm sorry. So we have seen a few examples with respect to the open function, right? So let us now summarize what all we have learned with respect to the open function. See here in Python, what does the open function do? In CS, I'm facing so much problems. Why? You find it very difficult to learn? Is that so? Bhavna, you may go see all the lectures posted by me in, is that okay? I think maximum I'm trying to explain in the most simplest of the manner that I can. So I would recommend you to please go visit Unacademy's Let's Crack CBSE Science, and you can go watch my lectures wherein I have posted the lectures on the beginning of the Python language, starting from the Python language, but the different data types. Then we have learned the different data structures, and also a small portion with respect to modules I have posted. Okay, so please go and visit all those. Now after the end of each chapter, actually I'm going chapter by chapter. So after the end of each portion completion, we have a session on discussion of questions, like we discuss conceptual questions, we discuss application based questions, wherein I have in all the slides there would be the question as well as the answers. So you may go visit those PPTs, I mean the lectures, though it is a little long. Whatever is required or whichever portion that you find it difficult, you may go and watch. I have almost the lectures have been running from the past 2 months. Okay. Yes, beta, I'll be trying maximum to cover it before your exams. I do understand. Fine. Okay. So Python's open function, what it does is it creates a file object. Now this will serve as a link to the file residing on your computer. Okay. Now apart from that, we have Bhavana, we have the same. I usually conduct the same topics class in the Unacademy app too. Right now my lectures are free sessions. So you can download the app and follow me in the Unacademy app so that you will get the links to the classes there, wherein I think you have a provision to download and see the PPTs also. Okay. So Python's open function. So this creates a file object which will serve as a link to the file residing in your computer. Okay. So what happens? What exactly the open function do? The open function not only opens a file but also create a file object. Now the file object is nothing but actually a pointer, right? Now what does the pointer do? It is actually a link to a place where the file is stored in your computer. So whenever you're trying to open with the file name, what happens? This file object will naturally go and link it to the place where it has been stored in memory. So this is how you get access to the file. Okay. Now, see what was the first parameter for open? You can, in the third example, we saw that even the entire path could be mentioned, right? So the path to the file to be opened. Now, what was the second parameter of open, which is corresponding to the mode of opening, right? The mode of opening can be read, write, or append, which we will be learning in the coming slides. Now, if you have not mentioned the mode, the default file open mode was read mode. Okay. So, see a note here. When you open a file in the read mode, what is a mandatory condition? See, when you're trying to read something, only if the book is there, you can read something, right? So, similarly, when you're trying to read a file from the system, the file must exist in the folder. If it doesn't exist, and then if you're trying to open in the read mode, what happens? An error will be raised here. So suppose you're going to open a notebook, a very fresh notebook for reading. You find there are nothing written in it, right? But so now you cannot read anything because you see only blank pages. But imagine that there are already some notes written in the notebook. So when you try to open it, you can read something because you're opening the note with the expectance of reading something, and only when there is something pre-written in the notebook can you read something, right? Similar is a concept being carried out here also. When you're trying to open a file in the read mode, it is a mandatory condition that the file must be already existing in the folder, in the current folder. Otherwise, Python will find an raise an error because it cannot find a file of such name existing. Is the idea clear? Yes. So moving on. So this is in nutshell an explanation to the open function that we right now learned. It returns a file object whose type is file. Now this is a file object which links Python to its computer's file system. Nothing but where the file is being saved or in the storage. Now this file object can be used to refer to a file on the disk. So whenever you want to refer to the file, naturally the file will have the file will have a file pointer linking to it. Okay. Yes, Bhavana, this is actually not a 2-hour session, but I have around, I think, 34 slides. And when I end up the lecture, when I come to the last slide, I would be winding it up. Yes, welcome, Praveen. I hope you understood it. So let's get back to the next example, wherein I have written the same example with the path and then dissected it to show what exactly each point to. Okay. Now this is the file object. Built-in is a, open is a built-in file function. Okay. A function with respect to the file operation. So hence the name file function. Then you have the entire path of your file and then the mode in which it is going to open. Now see here in the path, as I told you, I can right now, sorry Vishwa, right now the PDF is not available. I think after consultation, I can give you the link where this would be available. I can post it in the coming classes. Okay. So see here, instead of showing the double slash, you can also show, write single slashes also in the path. But what is the condition that you need to do? You need to specify the path as a raw string. Fine. We'll come to a raw string later on. To show that it is a raw string, what you need to do is attach the character small letter R just before the opening quotes. Okay, not inside the quotes but outside the quotes. Suppose if you want, there is an option of providing like this. Not mandatory, you need to use it, but this is a provision in the language. So I'm telling you so that you understand it. Fine. So see here, it has to be mentioned as raw string. If you want to use only single slashes in the path, to show that it is a raw string, the only thing that you need to do is prefix the small letter R just outside your quotation. Okay. What is the significance of raw string? Yes, Bhavna, we are coming to it. Yes, Praveen, I hope you understood it. Okay. So the prefix R shows that this is the raw string. Now, whenever we are giving or whenever we are indicating that, yes, this path is a raw string, we are telling the compiler, it is indicating to the compiler or the system that there is no special meaning attached to any of the characters that are being told here. See what happens when we learn something called escape sequence. When I said the term escape sequence, I told you that you would have the backslash followed by a character, right? I just mentioned 3 characters for you. So there are umpteen number of escape sequences. For the time being, we are just going to see backslash T, backslash N and backslash R, right? Now backslash N and R, the carriage return and new line, similar to the enter key, and backslash T for the tab, right? So when you're giving slash and then if you're having a character which is having a special meaning or which indicates the escape sequence, what will happen? Definitely an error is going to arise here, right? So in this case, the system should not get confused. See, if I'm not mentioning as a raw string, what happens? Since D colon slash temp folder. Now what is backslash T? It is an escape sequence which indicate tab, right? So in that case, the system will give an incorrect result because it cannot process it. Fine, it gets confused. So to make it rectified or to bring a solution to such a problem, there is a provision in the Python language by indicating that the path when you're mentioning with single slashes, I repeat, the path when you're mentioning with single slashes is a raw string. To indicate it is a raw string, the letter R is being prefixed outside the path. Fine. Okay, so I hope you understood this also, Praveen. So if you give the file name without its path, fine. If you're just giving the file name and if you are not mentioning the path. So that means what will happen? Python will naturally try to open or create the file in the same directory. That means at which path it is currently existing. From that path or from that directory, it will either open, it will either search whether such a file is existing, or it will create based on the mode in which the file is going to be created. Okay. So this is how things would be following. Now I have just mentioned and the raw string example so that you would understand such a provision is also there in the language. Okay. Now we're going to see what the file object or file handle is. Fine. So the definition says it is a reference to a file on disk. It opens and makes it available for a number of tasks. The task includes reading and writing to a file on the disk. All the functions performed on a data file are through file objects. Okay. So whenever you are trying to open a file, what do you write? You write the file object is equal to open. Fine. The file name followed by the mode. Right. So these are the things you write, and this is how you open a file. Now imagine that the file is python.txt. Fine. And then you are trying to open in the read mode. And imagine that the slide that you are right now seeing is your python.txt. So this is happening to be your first line of the file, right? So the file object, it is a handle. It is actually pointing to the very first line of the file. Because why? It is opened in the read mode. So whenever a file is opened in the read mode, what does it indicate? It is already existing file, and naturally what is the standard convention of reading? You definitely read from the very first line from the leftmost corner, and then you would progress right. So this is how you read it. And when you're opening in the read mode, this is where the file object points to. Just a second. I'm sorry, I think I've got a bad throat now. Okay, so this is a case when you're trying to open the file in the read mode. Okay, now imagine that you are trying to open a file which is going to, in the write mode. Okay, so in the write mode, when you are trying to open a file, now there can be two conditions. Okay, there can be how many conditions? There can be two conditions. The condition is that either the file is already existing. Okay, the file is already existing. The python.txt is already existing. Then it will open the file. But if it is not existing, what will happen? A new file would be created. Okay, so understand that when you're trying to open a file in write mode, there are two conditions. If the file can be either existing or not existing. Now, if the file is a file by such a name, python.txt is already existing, what happens? Python will erase whatever contents was already there in the file. Okay, imagine this is a case with the write mode. When the file python.txt you are trying to open in the write mode, and you see that the python.txt is already existing. In that case, it will erase the entire contents, and then you would have a fresh page and the file pointer would be pointing at the topmost left corner. Is the idea clear? Because this is the point from where you're going to start writing. Okay. Suppose now let's see that second case wherein a file python.txt is not already existing. So what would happen? What would happen is the Python would create a new file, a fresh file. It is simply like you're taking a fresh page of your notebook for writing, where would you start writing from? You would definitely start writing from the topmost left corner, right? So this is how it happens. If the file is not existing, then it would create a new file. The name of the file would be python.txt. The object would be file object, and the pointer would definitely point to the topmost left corner. Okay. So this is all with the case of read and write modes. Okay. So now let's get to seeing. Now this is what you people have been asking me also. These are the different file access modes. A file mode governs the type of operations like read, write and append. Okay. Now we look into, there is a table coming up, and from the table I'll teach you what the append mode is also. Okay. Now, operations like read, write, and append are possible in the opened file. Okay, that is, it refers to how the file will be used once it is opened. So once you open the file, and once when you mention the modes, how this can be used. Okay, now see here. These are the different file modes. Which are they? Right now, I have just mentioned the read, write and append mode. Even if you are trying to open the binary file, you can even do that. But actually, it doesn't serve any purpose, because there is no point reading zeros and ones, right? So, but there is a provision wherein you can even open a binary file, okay? Indicating it in the binary file mode, you postfix the letter B to indicate it is binary after your mode, which are the modes R, W and A. When you postfix it, it will be appearing like RB, WB, AB. Okay. So what are the descriptions? When it is R, it is read only. When it is W or WB, it is write only. When it is A or AB, it is append. Okay. So to create a file, you need to open a file in a mode that supports the write mode. Now, apart from this, you can even have a combination of the modes in which you write R plus or W plus or A plus. Okay. Now you had a doubt with regards to append, right? Now imagine that this is a file, okay? And this file is already existing. What is it? This file is already existing. Let the name of the file be f1.txt. Fine. If you're trying to open in the append mode, what happens is this file would be opened. The contents already existing in the file will never be erased, and see here, actually it is ending, the file is ending here. The contents have been ending at the point open and full stop. Now the file handle will be pointing to this position when you are trying to open f1.txt in the append mode. Is the idea clear? When you're trying to open in the append mode, the cursor would be pointing, or the file handle or the object would be pointing to the point wherein your file has ended already. So what happens? You can now go on adding elements or writing to a file from the point where the file pointer is pointing. Is the idea clear? So appending means you already have a file existing. There is contents to the file. Yes, Gokul, good evening. Welcome to the class. Okay, so append mode means you already have an existing file. There is a content to the file, and now you are starting from the very last position. I mean, from the point where the file already ended. And from that point or the next point onwards, you can have entry towards the file. Yes, Anantu, good evening. Okay, so this exactly is the difference between the three modes, which are the modes read, write and append. And the letters associated with them are R, W and A, all in smaller case letters. And as I told you, when you're mentioning the modes, it has to be enclosed between double quotes. Okay. Now, apart from all these things, I told you there can be a combination of them also. All you need to do is you need to postfix the plus operator along with the modes to indicate that uh, you can have a combination of all that, like R plus, W plus, and A plus. So this is the thing with all the file modes. And here next is closing the file. So what do you do when you open a notebook? You start writing the notes. You can, if you want, you can read the notes. Now, after the entire work is complete, definitely you will close the notebook, right? So if you're imagining your notebook to be a file, so after all the operations, what is to be done? It has to be closed, right? Now we're going to see how we can close a file. Fine. So I told you whenever we are learning any concept, we need to see the syntax, right? Only with the syntax can we use it in our program. So in the syntax, how is the syntax to be learned? Whenever we are learning the syntax, we see anything enclosed between angle brackets, it has to be written by the user or the programmer, right? So see the syntax here, file handle dot close. Now close is a method here and not a function. Why? Because is it a standalone function? No, because it is going to exist along with the file object. Fine. So for this reason, close is called as a method and not a function. So the file handle or the file object dot close. Now suppose the file handle in our previous programs and the examples we use the file handle as my file, right? So how do you close it? My file dot close. Okay. So the close function would break the link of the file object and file on the disk. So where is the file actually stored? It is stored in the secondary storage or in the disk, right? So whenever you are saying close function or whenever you are using the close function, what it does or what exactly happens is it is simply like taking a scissors and cutting off the link. Now what is the link? The link between the file object and the point at which the file is getting is stored in the memory. Yes, Siddhant. Okay, so after the next thing that you need to notice, once you have written the close with respect to a file handle, that means you have closed the file. Now you cannot perform any other operations. Okay, so no more task can be done with respect to the file through the file object once you have initiated the close function. Is the idea clear? So these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you are learning the close method. Okay. So I repeat, you have to name whenever you are calling close, it is like a close method and not as a function. See here, open. Whenever we used open, it was a built-in function and it was standalone. Did we use it with the help of any file object? No, right? But when you are using close, you need to specifically say which is a function which has to be closed. So the only method for using, the only strategy for using it is you need to associate the method close with the corresponding file handle. Is the idea clear? So hence the close is called as a method. See, we saw in the previous syntax also, we have the file handle dot close. So whenever you're having an object dot a function, that particular function is called as a method or it is treated as a constructor of the object. Okay. This was something that we already came across when we learned the difference between function and method. Okay. So to summarize, this is all for the day. So with this, we are going to wind up today's session. So to summarize what all we have covered in today's lecture, it was a little lengthy lesson. And we have not completed the files yet. We'll be continuing it with different parts. So to summarize, we have seen something called as persistence. Then we saw the introduction to files. Then we saw the different types of data files and how the two types of what are the two types of storage? Which were they? Text files and binary files, right? Then we saw how to work with text files in Python. We saw a few functions like open as well as close, and then the different syntaxes. What are the different ways in which the functions could be used? Okay. So all these things we have covered. So with this note, I'm bidding good night. Now, before bidding good night, let me remind you of my promo code SLYT. Now, this would help you in, this would help you in getting a 10% discount in the Unacademy subscription fee. So you may please follow me in the app as well as in the YouTube so that you get a notification of the future lectures that would be posted by me. Okay, so please thank you all for attending and hoping to meet you all the next day. Tomorrow I'll not be having a YouTube session. We would have a live YouTube session at sharp 8:30 on day after tomorrow. Okay, so thank you all. So with this note, a very good night to all of you.